Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore, and welcome to our mindfulness practice. My main topic is secular mindfulness. So finding ways to affect ourselves, our mental state, and maybe learning a little bit more about ourselves, getting a bit more self-awareness through paying attention to something very simple, like what's happening in the present moment inside of our bodies. The definition of mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment non-judgmentally. So is it possible to do that and to practice doing that so that we get better at doing it, so that we can use that skill of self-awareness to begin to positively affect our mental health? Today's topic is about active breathing while feeling anxiety. So this is a kind of a topic that has been requested, I'd say, and it's one that I do from time to time. So mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment non-judgmentally, paying attention, being aware of what's going on at any given moment, and that's the practice that tends to be the core of the teaching that I do. And there's a lot of benefits to practicing mindfulness and being more mindful. And I've talked about this at length in a lot of my live sessions. So the last time we talked, it was about using mindfulness as mental maintenance. So my belief and understanding as well through research as the most beneficial thing about mindfulness practice and the most beneficial way to practice isn't to meditate when we're feeling stressed, is to go, oh, I'm feeling stressed now I should sit down and do mindfulness practice. That instead, mindfulness practice is something that should be done regularly, like brushing your teeth. If you want good dental hygiene, you should brush your teeth every day, at least twice a day. If you want to have good mental hygiene, you should meditate at least once or maybe twice a day, and figure out your own meditation schedule. And you'll see, without a doubt, you will see results from a daily meditation practice. Now, that said, what happens in those moments? What should I do when I'm feeling anxious and I'm overwhelmed by anxiety? Is there anything that I can do to try to have some relief from the symptoms of anxiety? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So there are ways to do it, and I think I want to help to differentiate. It is what you would do during those times of anxiety are different than what you would do as your regular mindfulness practice. And it's early. It's early today, but I've got the scratching at the door, so I'm gonna go see if I can find my guest stars. I think it's because I fed him early, so he's showing up. He's like showing up and wanting to be paid attention to and wanting to be on the live broadcast here early. This is Frank, the happy meditation cat. Yeah. Okay. This is the donation. This is the donation shaker. So, okay, everybody donate for Frank. He's a ragdoll, yeah. So, when we're feeling anxiety, what is the kind of, and I think what's funny is, I think we as teachers tend to overuse the word practice, right? Like you hear practice for all kinds of things. So like it's not breathing. It's not a breathing technique. It's practice. And so I think I want to differentiate that too. Is that I wouldn't call these practices as really like an activity, something that we are doing to intentionally try to affect the mental state. And so, which is very different from mindfulness. Is that mindfulness is paying attention to what's going on. So whatever the mental state is really coming into contact and getting intimate with that mental state or physical state or as we explore, we discover that mental states, emotional states, and physical states are all interrelated, And as we do some kind of anxiety activity to reduce our anxiety, you can incorporate, and as we do our practice today, we will incorporate mindfulness into this anxiety activity, this anxiety reduction activity. So the idea is to understand what is the state we are in as we go into the exercise, and then what is the state that we're in as we're going out of the exercise. And so observing what we're feeling as we go into the exercise is helpful, because we can really name what it is that's going on. I mean, am I feeling anxiety? How do I know that I'm feeling anxiety? So tuning into these mental and physical and emotional cues that let you know what's happening. You know, how can you know what medicine to apply if you don't know what the prognosis is, right? So what are we going to do? We need to know what it is that we're experiencing. We need to diagnose our condition before we apply the correct balm. So this is kind of the idea of how mindfulness ties in to these anxiety activities or exercises. So the exercise that we'll be going through today is one of my favorites, because it's really kind of I wouldn't say ground level. There's one that I use that's even more ground level. Thank you, Gene, for your donation. More ground level than this one, but this one is called box breathing. And so box breathing has some known benefits. One of the benefits is, and I looked during my research to figure out exactly how it affects the parasympathetic nervous system, but it does have some effect on the parasympathetic nervous system. Usually, the kind of exercise that I would do to activate the parasympathetic nervous system has a longer exhale than it would the inhale, because the exhalation is tied to the parasympathetic nervous system, and the inhalation is tied to the sympathetic nervous system. And sorry for this kind of jargon, perhaps. The sympathetic nervous system, which is related to the inhalation, is tied to the fight or flight stress response, and the exhalation, the parasympathetic nervous system, is tied to the rest and digest response. So when we're feeling really anxious, this is a tie into the sympathetic nervous system. We're feeling like an overwhelming kind of fear that we want, which activates that fight, flight, or freeze response. So is there a way to, these are two things, it's a tug of war, right? So sympathetic nervous system pulling on this side and the parasympathetic on the other side. Is it possible, when we're feeling so much pull over here, to apply something on this side to help to minimize that experience and to start to tone things down? So this is one way that box breathing helps. So box breathing helps by intentionally activating the parasympathetic nervous system. What else it does is reduces heart rate and reduces blood pressure. So these are some of the benefits, and it also helps to activate a concentrated mental state. And so this also can be helpful as the mind is going wild. So as we see our mind going all over the place, and this is a way to kind of lasso the mind and pull it back into a place where we have a little bit more control of what's going on. Because sometimes when we're in these anxious states, it can feel completely out of control, like we have no control over what's going on. And so doing box breathing helps to bring us back into that state of more relaxation. And I think I also want to say that you shouldn't expect to go from a place of of extreme anxiety to a place of complete peace in the matter of a few minutes. So even when you're doing this and you're checking, hey, my heart rate hasn't returned to 60 beats a minute. Like that's to be expected. To be able to return to a completely rested heart rate from a state of massive anxiety isn't a realistic expectation. Having some progress in that is kind of what we're looking for. Something else that helps with that allows box breathing to help in an anxious state is this distraction. And so this is also something that is quite different from mindfulness practice. In mindfulness practice, we're rolling out the welcome mat. We're rolling out the red carpet, right? The guest house. If you remember the Guest House by Rumi, right? It's welcome them in. They may be a crowd of sorrows to sweep your house of all of its furniture. Welcome and entertain them all, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Like that's mindfulness, okay? That is not how we are dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is hey, wait a minute, I realize that I am in this state of overwhelm and I can't entertain any more guests right now. I just don't have the capacity. My living room is full and my furniture is completely empty. What do I do now? And so this is a way to distract ourselves, right? So instead of those anxious thoughts that tend to be really intrusive, that we don't have any control over, coming in and dominating what it is that we're experiencing, can we give our mind something else to do? And so this is kind of like, there is a fine line between mindfulness and active anxiety reduction, in that in mindfulness practice, we are using something like the natural pace of breath to give the monkey mind something to do. So in this case, we are also giving some activity to our mind, but in this case, the activity is more engaging, right? So that as we engage more strongly in this breathing technique, it allows us to be fully focused a little bit more strongly than it might be in a pure mindfulness practice. That we're focusing. So I'm going to get into box breathing here shortly, but what it is it's controlling the breath. It's not just allowing the breath to go at its natural pace. We're controlling the inhalation. We're using counting. So counting is another way to keep the mind held in a place that is not in our state of anxiety. We're counting on the in-breath. We're counting as we hold our breath. We're doing a lot of counting, and we're focusing on this activity. And so this activity, this exercise, keeps our mind focused and engaged, and makes it harder for the mind to go off into these places that are full of anxiety, that are causing us fear in those moments. So that as we bring our mind, and by the way, you will notice, especially as you practice mindfulness more, that most of the time this fear is irrational. That this fear is way beyond what should be what we should rationally be able to expect. Fear is a natural bodily response, and I think that's another, when it comes to mindfulness practice, rolling out the red carpet and welcoming, looking at fear as this beautiful animal in the wild. We go, wow, I can look at this, and in mindfulness, when we're in the space, when we're not completely overwhelmed, I can look at this thing that I'm experiencing as a life experience, and I can look at it and I can understand it, and that knowledge about it gives me so much information about myself, so that I understand the next time some big wave of anxiety, a stronger wave shows up, that I'm more equipped to deal with it, because I have befriended this animal. I have learned to understand what my fear is like. And as I have explored it, I can see that about 90% of the time, my reaction is more than it should be. Fear's purpose is to get us out of a life-threatening situation. That's why human beings have evolved fear, is so that we can win. That our ancestors, we're here today because our ancestors knew to be afraid when they saw a scary thing that could threaten their life. And so the difference between then and now is that an email from my boss, which isn't life-threatening but feels life-threatening, can start to cause those life-threatening feelings. We start to link all of that together, right? Like my ancestors' ability to find food. If there's a 1% chance of my livelihood being cut off because of this email from my boss, then I catastrophize and I push it way out of proportion. And I think of all of the horrible things that could potentially happen, not only in my job, but then into my life. Like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, my boss is mad at me. Maybe I'm going to lose my job. What are the implications of my life? And then the train of thought just goes all off the tracks and goes crazy. You know what I mean? So thanks for listening thus far. Welcome everybody to our practice here today. And we're going to go ahead and get into this practice. So this practice is, I'll grab my singing bowl. So this practice is going to be a few pieces. Thanks, Rachel, for sharing. Rachel says, that explains why I always used to get hyper anxious when my boss wanted to see me. I always thought it was about the job. And I think that's it's called negativity bias, is that we tend to see things in a more negative way for protection. And I'll just use the analogy that I've used, I don't know, not 100 times, but getting close to there, is that if there's think about your ancestors, right? There's a bush that's rustling, and if you think that inside the bush is a tiger, you run away quickly, right? And then out pops a rabbit, and it was like, oh wow, I got scared for no good reason. But then if it was a tiger, hey, wow, what a smart decision that was. Okay, and then on the contrary, if that bush rustles and you go, oh, it's probably just a rabbit in that bush, and then out jumps a tiger, boom, that ancestor is no longer an ancestor to anyone because that ancestor has been eaten by a tiger, right? So it makes sense for us to blow things out of proportion because that's what kept our ancestors alive. That's how we survived as human beings, is by blowing small things out of proportion, right? So, it makes sense. It makes sense that we do this. It isn't particularly useful in a society where we don't have tigers jumping out of the bushes all the time. So this is just that kind of old, out of date hardware, right? I mean, we're running on this millions of years. We're running this brand new, AI enhanced world on a thing that's millions of years old. So how do we deal with it? So we'll really get into the practice this time. So get comfortable wherever you are. So I'd encourage you to sit up straight. In a dignified posture. And again, why do we worry about the posture? Is because of this link between body and mind. You'll find that if you sit in a dignified way, that your mind can be more determined, more focused through that connection between mind and body. Just like if you stand in a confident way, it will make you feel more confident. And so let me encourage you to begin to focus on the body. So what do you notice when you feel your body? What is the body that's arriving here today? What is the state of this body? What do you feel in your chest? What do you feel in your eyebrows? What do you feel in your jaw? In your shoulders? Do you notice any tension? And then as you ponder your emotional state today, your mental state, what's been going through your mind today? What are you coming from? After this is over, what will you be going to later? There are these things that aren't in the present affecting you right now. So the past is gone, the future is not yet here. But you can see that those things do affect our mental state in the present moment, affect our physical state, affect our emotional state. So just checking in, who is it that's arriving today? What version of me is showing up to this practice and this exercise? And so let's take a moment to become aware of the breath. So not controlling the breath in any way, at least not in this moment. Noticing as we breathe in, as we breathe out. And so let me inquire, how do you know that you're breathing in? How do you know that you're breathing out? There's something physical in the body that is giving you that information. Something that you can detect. So tune into that. Tune into that physical sensation. Maybe you feel the belly expanding and contracting. I don't know. Just, not letting me guide you to that today. Instead, you discovering for yourself, how do I know that I'm breathing? And then whatever your answer is there, tuning your mind in to the best of your ability to that sensation. And seeing if you can concentrate your mind. So there may be a tendency for the mind to want to think about other things, to think about the past, to think about the future. See if you can let go of those thoughts and fully concentrate your mind on this sensation of breathing in and breathing out. Do you find yourself anticipating the next words I will say? If you do, that is distraction from the breath. See if you can keep focusing on this feeling of breathing, just for a little while longer. Taking note of what the state of the body, the mind, and the emotions are, and even noticing, hey, maybe doing this alone is already starting to have some effect. So now we're going to begin to transition into the period of active, controlled breathing. So box breathing is 4 distinct steps. And it's called box breathing because it's a square that each side is equal in length. So what we'll do is inhale for 4 seconds, or if 4 seconds is too long, 3 seconds. You'll hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds. And you might find that this after exhalation, the holding might be the hardest part. And if you're having trouble with 4 seconds, decrease it to 3 and just keep the same length of time on all 4 sides of the box. So I'll be guiding you with a 4-second inhalation, hold, and exhalation. So first, and I'm just going to write it in the chat just to make it easier. So just in case you get distracted, or especially for people who are joining in the middle of the practice or in the exercise, let's together, at the end of your next exhale, it's breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. So continue now at your own counting, your own pace for a little while. I'll continue using my gesture for those that want to follow along. So keep continuing. I'm going to just add a little bit here. So as you keep paying attention to your mental state, or as you keep doing this practice, I encourage you to have a look at how things are going, especially in the body. And so as I'm doing this practice, one of the things that I'm noticing as I'm doing this exercise, the thing that I'm noticing is that my capacity to do this exercise increases. And so maybe you're feeling that as well, or maybe not. Maybe you're still feeling really anxious and maybe you need to do less. So just understanding what is going on with you, using mindfulness to understand where you are. And so if you find that your capacity to do this exercise is increasing, maybe exploring increasing the count to 5. If you find that 5 is easy, maybe it's possible to increase your count to 6. I'm just leaving my gesture at the 4 seconds. So if you're following along, I'll add my verbal cue here in for 2 cycles and the next cycle. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. And so now let's slowly, if you're doing one more cycle, just maybe allowing this to be your last cycle and coming back to that feeling of breathing. So letting the breath return to its natural pace, letting go of any control of the breath. And now, as you examine your natural pace of breath, has anything changed? Take a moment to examine the chest, the eyebrows, the jaw, the shoulders, examining the mental state. Are there thoughts? The emotional state. And then coming back to the breath, the natural pace, whatever it is that lets you know, what physical sign lets you know, oh hey, I'm breathing. Just tuning into that. And so now, let's slowly begin to bring our practice and this exercise to its natural close. And I'll close practice with 3 rings of the bell. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for practicing with me and being here for everybody else. It's a pleasure, as always, to lead practice and exercise to assist in understanding our own mental state. Thank you, Chris. Happy to hear it's helpful. Excuse me. So, how did it go today? What did you notice? What happened? Did you notice, how about the mindfulness activity from the beginning and in the end? Did you notice as you first assessed the body, was it different from your second assessment? So what did you notice? And also notice, is there an expectation? If you go, I didn't notice anything different, that's okay too, right? Just being honest and being aware of what is in this moment. This is really the core foundation of mindfulness practice. Thanks, Eddie. And welcome, and of course, welcome to everybody. If it's your first time joining this live practice, I hope you'll come back. I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Singapore, it's I guess for you it's maybe Monday, but here in Singapore and in Australia it's already Tuesday. So and New Zealand, I don't want to forget New Zealand over there either. So yeah, come back. I'm going to be talking about we're going to be exploring another exercise next time. So in about 47 hours from now, we'll be doing another active exercise that can assist in anxiety and difficult times. So we'll go through that. But in the meantime, how have things been going for you? Or how did things go for you in this particular exercise? Do you notice? What did you notice? Chris says, the counting caused me to let go of anxious thoughts. Thanks, Chris. And Susan, I'm so happy you had a good first experience. I hope to see you back again. You can follow me. You can follow me on Insight Timer. You can also sign up for my upcoming events as well so that you'll get notified as those are coming. But it's, at the moment, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, although, as I mentioned last time, I'm going to be ramping up my Insight Timer activity in the very near future. Rachel says, the counting caused me to block out other thoughts. Yes, and this is how this exercise works. Thanks, Cece. Yes, Chris, less pain when I can concentrate on here and breathing. Yes, Megan. Glad to meet you. And yes, I am also a Search Inside Yourself teacher. So I certified in Search Inside Yourself. I think in like 2019. So it's been a wonderful foundation for my teaching. Thanks, Rachel, for your donation. And thanks, everybody, so much for being here today. I'm just kind of, I wish we had a little bit more time today. I went over in my beginning explanation. So I'm just going to have to sign off here. But I just want to express my gratitude to everybody who's here, to this strong community. You can join Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle and Insight Timer groups. Now there's a little tab in the upper left-hand corner of the app that you can tap on to find the groups, and there's a group of people in there that meditate every single day together to some recordings. So you can feel free to join that group if you'd like to make sure that you practice every day. And I appreciate your support. Listen to my tracks. Use my tracks to help when I'm not online, and that can help me a lot. Follow me on Insight Timer. Donate if you feel like it. Carlos says, if I concentrate in my breathing, I can't concentrate on my problems. Thanks so much for sharing that. So that's it. That's how this exercise works exactly. So this can be used in tandem with mindfulness practice, and that's why I've set up this for two consecutive events, so that we can talk more about it next time. So tune in, same bat time, same bat channel, and I'll be with you again in about 47 hours. So thank you, Karen, for your donation. Much appreciated. And I'll see you next time. But before we leave each other, there is one thing that we always do, and that is a little bit of compassion for myself and compassion for others, an active way to practice being compassionate to ourselves and being more compassionate to other people we encounter in the world. So if you like, please repeat after me. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching and listening, wherever you happen to be, I wish you all happiness and peace. And may all human beings everywhere on this planet, big or small, good or bad, whoever, wherever they are, may we all be happy and peaceful. Thanks again for your presence. And I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.